Hi everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of the AFROmind Podcast. Today we are talking about the main idea is men's mental health.
Yes.
And we're going to use a trending issue in the Ghana TikTok space as the anchor point.
Yes. Yes.
So stay with us. If you haven't already subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for, man. Come on now. Hit the subscribe button. Watch the episodes that we've already had.
Yeah.
We have another episode coming up that will be about autism. And, given that April is Autism Awareness Month, so hang in there for that one as well. But today we're talking about men and men's mental health.
Yes.
Initial remarks about this topic, even before we talk about the trending issue.
I think it's a reoccurring conversation, and it always happens when there is a tragedy or there is something. So, yeah.
One of my, unfortunately, things that come up a lot, my least favorite things about the conversation about men's mental health is some way, somehow, the conversation comes up and at least social media makes it about women. Like we're talking about men's mental health, like we bring women into it. As a woman, how much of a role do you feel that women have to play in men's mental health?
Women have no role to play in it.
Well, so we are.
If we are looking at like broader issue, we are going to talk about like broader societal issue. That's different versus women have nothing to do with it.
So we are, and what's the word I'm looking for? We are in a symbiosis. We are in a society together, right? We influence and affect each other. So I think there's something, right?
Like
again,
what?
We're not, good question. I don't know what women can do.
Okay.
But I think we can work on it together, right?
What do you mean?
One of the things that I do not like about conversations, especially if it's when men gather to have conversations about men and even sometimes it's about a lot of things. Some way, somehow, the conversation ends up being about bashing women. Now, that I despise, But also, there are a lot of men who, whether by virtue of how society has socialized us or raised us, who don't know how to do anything for themselves.
Okay.
Right? So, for example, like many men, their doctor's appointments and such are scheduled by their wives. They won't do it.
Okay.
Right? So when we have a conversation around things like going to therapy, honestly, I'm ashamed saying this. Right? I'm ashamed saying this.
Okay.
But when we have a conversation about going to therapy, for example, if you are scheduling his doctor's appointments anyway, at the therapy part.
Okay.
I'm ashamed saying this.
Yeah.
But the reality on the ground is the men out there that we care about don't know how to do many things for themselves. They probably won't initiate. They probably won't, push it on their own if we leave it to them.
Okay.
Right. So this is where they're at, honestly.
So what's your point here?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Like what's
we'll probably scratch this part from the podcast.
What's your point here, though?
I don't know. I'll just leave it at the part where you say women have no role in it, and then we'll keep it going.
Okay.
Right? I don't know what my point is, but we'll see. Maybe if somebody else has a better way of phrasing this as to how women can play a point in this, let me know. Those of you on TikTok, at least. All right. But okay, so let's get into the trending issue, right? So for those of you who do not know, I think first year students at the University of Education, Winneba in Ghana, unalived themselves because he caught or saw his girlfriend with another man, and apparently I think in the moment he collapsed, they revived him, and then later he FaceTimed his friends or he called his friends or whatever it is, and then hung himself.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of conversation about it in our Ghanaian space. Many people primarily calling him names, calling him weak, calling him, fool for ending his life. Your parents are taking you to school. They paid so much for you, and because of a woman, you have done this to yourself, what the hell, etc. What are your thoughts about this, especially the conversation and the discourse around it first? Like, is there any is there any advantage to all of the things that are being said in the community?
Well, I mean, there's no advantage. First of all, the conversations are very minimal, to say the least, right? It's not. I don't even think on TikTok anybody is talking about it. Even the people that advocate for men, they are not. Then you go, it's X or whatever they call it. There's some conversation. YouTube, there's conversation, but it's only because the vloggers or the bloggers, they have to deliver the news, so they are delivering the news.
Yeah. It's more like a news delivery, not a conversation.
Not a conversation, then that kind of things. And then the rest is the commentary, right? So there is no, again, what's the point? There is no benefit to it.
Right, because a lot of the commentary has been bashing the guy.
And it's men.
Blaming the woman,
Let's
blaming
just
the girl.
be frank, it's men bashing the guy.
Right, yeah. Bashing or making fun of him. Mostly men. Because the video that I was talking about that I saw was by a woman.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been mostly men bashing the guy or making fun of him, calling him a fool. Or blaming the girl.
Okay.
Right? And making it as though, women are cheats, stuff like that. And I don't think there is any merit in that, because I think many people don't know nearly as much about the topic of suicide.
Yeah.
Right? Or for the purpose of these people on TikTok, on aliving, right?
Yeah.
So give us a little background about that, at least what we know as a field of psychology, as a field of therapy, about unaliving. Like, it's definitely not that as simple as we're making it seem. Right?
Yeah. So it's not as simple as like suicide, a person did this and all of that. It's a complex issue that's also shaped or influenced by culture, by systems, by society, by expectations. So it makes the conversation very difficult. I think even in Ghana, it was until recently that suicide was decriminalized, right? Yeah. So before it was
attempted suicide. If you attempt, and you
don't
succeed, you have some punishment. I don't know if it's jail time, but
yeah. So it's recently that was done. So that in of itself goes to show that the stigma and how far we have to go. So in terms of suicide, I think one of the things that people sometimes maybe associate with suicide is depression. That, okay, maybe suicide is as a result of depression or stuff like that. But suicidal thoughts is a symptom of depression, right? Suicidal thoughts or suicidal wishes is a symptom of depression. But that doesn't mean that it's only depression that can get a person to suicide, right? Poverty. If you don't have money, and sometimes people are thinking about it, job loss, grief, heartbreak, so many things that goes on in life, like social media, like I was saying. So there are other things that could bring about somebody
wanting to end their life.
Yeah, wanting to end their life, right? So if we are doing an assessment of that, I think there are things we look out for, right? Specifically, I usually use the Columbia Severity, CSSR something. Okay. So, right. So it's assesses for wishes, right? So the wishes, maybe I'm going to bed and I don't want to wake up. That almost everybody in the population has ever had a thought of that. Like, you have a stressful situation and you're like, maybe what if I go to bed and I don't wake up, right?
In the Gen Zers, the other side is like, shoot me, please.
Yeah. Or sometimes they will be like, this will be my reason 13 or whatever. Yeah. So then there is the wishes, and then there is from the wishes, there is the thoughts. So actually having the thought of it. So thought and the ideation, sometimes it goes hand in hand. there are people who live with passive ideation all their life. So the thoughts may come all the time. They deal with it all the time. That's there. So when we move from thoughts, then we actually come to like intent. So like, do you really intend on doing this? So like, that's like, okay, I've thought about it. I have some actually act of doing it, right? Then we come to like method or plan, that I actually have a plan. So if a person have a plan, the other thing also is the access of the plan, right? So somebody could say, oh, I don't want to give like
people ideas. Somebody can say a plan,
and
but then practically they don't have that plan.
They don't have access to it, or it's not possible for them. Versus if they say, I have a plan, and they are like, yes, I have this here, I have this there, I'm gonna go here, and those, then you know that okay, this person has a plan. And then if they have a plan, is the plan well thought out? Sometimes they could have a plan, da 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 da. Now, all that I'm saying, this is like, I don't want to say the perfect case scenario.
Like the sort of information that would make you say, "Oh,
yeah,
we know that this person would like."
And you don't always get it like that.
Yeah, it almost is never.
Yeah,
it's almost never like this.
Like that. Yeah. Never like somebody will come and tell you,
give you all
the
of
plan. It's never like that, and especially for mental health professionals, a lot of people hide it because they're like, if you know I have a plan, I have access to the plan, you are going to call, so they will not tell you. So again, this is like in a fantasy. It's not a
no, we get it's like ideal case, but it's not an ideal case.
It's not the ideal case, right? So I think the Columbia, it assesses that. Then it also assesses behaviors as well. So there are times that people can engage in behaviors that maybe they may not see it as suicide behaviors, but the result of the behavior can
like self-harm.
Yeah, can lead them to that path, right? So whether maybe taking some prescription medication
with alcohol.
Yeah, those kind of things. So sometimes it assesses that behavior and then put it together. So when you look at it that way, it's very broad. And like I said, there isn't always where somebody's going to call you and tell you, this is what I'm going to do. Like what happened with the guy. Sometimes when people call, they may be in that act of doing it, where maybe you interacting it can be difficult as well. And then there have been times when people have been interacted and then they get back and they become very depressed, or they would hate you, or the next time they would have like a well thought out plan for themselves. Yeah.
So in still around this particular case, right? Is it that simple that he did it over a girl?
It could be. It could be the reason.
And would you say that is more likely like the straw that broke the camel's back? Or, I mean, in a way, you spoke about how it's due to, it can be due to different things. Heartbreak being one of them, right? So it can be the shock of the heartbreak and having like almost like no time to process or deal with
impulsively.
And impulsively go ahead to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So the part that I'm struggling with is the community and the conversation making it sound like that's not a good enough reason, or that he's weak, or that he.
Okay. So what would be the good enough?
Is there ever, like, as a society, can we ever say, as for this reason, I think it's a good one? I'm struggling with the when the conversation is.
Yeah, when you think about it, so there are some, even in the US, there are some states, there are some countries that there is assisted suicide.
Right.
Where they will assist you
if you have like a terminal illness or
or sometimes even mental health issues. They would assist you, but it's not like right there. It's a process.
It's a process.
Yeah,
like you get a thought today,
then you go in there. No. It's a process. They will prepare you. Sometimes it could take months or even a year and stuff like that. So there are, and that some people agree with it, some people do not agree with it, right? Let's say the people that do a lot of advocacy work and stuff like that, their argument is we whatever choice you make for your life, it should be respected. So if this is the path that a person want to choose, then we should give them the resources, make sure they are comfortable, make sure they have everything that they need to exit uh, in a comfortable way. So when you look at it, it restores some human dignity as well. But even with that, again, maybe that's when people would say maybe that's not a good reason. But even with that, they would assess what's your reason or why, right? And I think like with the guy, I mean, we don't know if it was impulsive or if it was because he's not here. Yeah, he's not here to answer any questions per se. So
So for me, the biggest piece of it is that whatever the reason may be, in the moment, he didn't see a way out.
That for him, that is his reason.
Yeah.
That is his
even if it was strictly due to the heartbreak, in the moment, he did not see him going on about life. After if he were to lose this girl, or if his friends were to find out that this woman was with this other person, the shame, in the moment he felt there was no way out. Right. But sometimes when we, like, whether it be insult or say certain things about people who have ended their lives, for me, like, you think you're talking about this said person.
Right? The one that's gone.
You think you're talking about the one that's gone, but your close friend, your brother,
they are the ones alive.
So is listening to you.
Yeah, they can hear you.
And according to the research, 1 out of 5 people over the last year have dealt with suicidal thoughts before. And when it comes to depression generally, a lot of people are dealing with this. So somebody close to you has had these thoughts before, is always probably currently struggling with it, right? So if you're calling somebody who has ended their life names, the person that isn't going to come to you
and open up. And open
but what you need is for people to open up. But the more they open up, the more they hear that, like the more they get perspective.
Exactly. Or they can problem solve. Right.
You understand? Yeah. But whenever we kind of demonize when people do this and call them names and make fun of them and make memes out of them, people who are dealing with this, especially men who are dealing with this, won't tell them. Right? Because already he's been told that to be disgraced, he would rather die. And then also when he dies, we're like, it's not a good reason for him to die. You understand? You've lived your whole life being told that instead of bringing shame to yourself and your family. You understand? And then when he feels so much shame and he ends his life, we're like, why would you do that? Like, we don't, So but it's such a complex issue.
I think let me focus on Ghana. We as a society in Ghana, we think shame is the best way to approach everything.
To change behavior.
Yeah.
So even though it never works. Like, I don't want to still do it.
So that's the approach that we take to everything, whether it's teachers, it's parents, it's pastors, it's husbands, it's wife. We think that shame is the tool that we have, forgetting that it's a tool of control. And it never works. It doesn't build it doesn't build people up. It doesn't build their confidence. It's not going to give you the results that you need. It can give you the result maybe in a day, because maybe the person is feeling ashamed and whatever, so you will get the results, but then the aftermath, we don't think about it, but we focus on shame a lot.
This is the easy way. Yeah, it's the easy thing to do. Everybody can shame people. Like it takes a lot more humanity. It takes a lot more thinking about the other person, thinking through things to say, you know what, I can understand why you think that
this is why. Yeah,
I can understand why you feel that way. And then maybe help them explore. Because I mean, in a way, as therapists, that's what we do. I mean, when we're helping people build protective factors or build safety plan, it's telling them like these are
like you thinking through stuff, right?
You can do if you get those thoughts. But as a society, we almost always go straight to shame. Right? And it really
it
doesn't
never
work.
works. It never.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
I promise you, people, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come when I say, like, when you say they don't listen. You understand? So I guess for the purpose of the people who are alive, what can those who are dealing with thoughts like this, for whatever reason, whether it be due to poverty, because like we live in a Ghana, I have friends that I went to college with who still don't have jobs. Like if a person is feeling, you know what?
Yeah.
At this point, what am I doing in this life?
Yeah.
Let me just,
Yeah.
what can people who are dealing with thoughts like this do?
It's tough, right? Because you're talking about poverty, those kind of things. Trauma, grief, somebody dealing with poverty. The only thing that could solve their case
It's money.
is money. It's money, right? However, it's good to talk to somebody, right? I think that's the first step. There isn't. I don't have like a word or a magic word for you that will be like, okay, proof everything won't disappear. But it is good to have conversations with people. And I can guarantee you, whatever you are going through, you are not the first person and you are not the last person. Somebody has gone through it. And so you are not alone. I think that's the universality of life, that
like maybe your exact situation may be alone. Like Hayford might be alone in his exact situation, but public shame.
I can guarantee you somebody has gone through that.
but like public shame and
public
stuff
humiliation,
like that.
Yeah.
So many people have dealt with that before, right? And so many people have come out on the other side.
Yes.
And gone on to have successful careers, successful lives, healthy lives and healthy relationships, right? So you're going to be okay. You need to seek help. You need to talk to people. And as a broader society, we need to significantly reduce the shame that we attach to mental health issues or even things like this, right? We need to stop that. Because again, it doesn't work. There's no merit to it. But we need to get better as people to take care of ourselves. Because again, like when you typically as somebody who takes care of yourself by way of your work and mental health, and you do the things that help you keep in a stay in a good space. Then when something this tough happens, it's almost like I think of it more as a bank, right? When you save some money in a bank and you get something that takes a lot of money from you, there's a high chance you still have some reservoir to then keep you going. But if day by day you're not taking care of yourself, your mental health, and your self care is at a very air point, then anything that hits you could really bring you down. Right. And in the moment, you won't see a way out and you don't have any resources because you don't even have, if you're not taking care of your mental health, then you don't even know what you typically do when you're struggling with your mental health, right? So, for example, I know that listening to music helps. I know that if I'm working and it's sort of funky and I'm not feeling great, taking a walk helps. I have friends that I can call and talk to. Like I know some things that help me with my mental health. In my day-to-day, I'm exercising, so that helps me with my mood. If I get into a shocking thing like that, the moment will be very, very difficult, of course, right? But I have a few skills up my sleeve to help keep me afloat while I figure it out. So I think on a more general level, if we all get into the habit of taking care of ourselves, we have a better chance of surviving these very tough moments, so that we've heard way too many of these stories that have to be that way. Like suicide is very, very preventable.
It is, yeah. But
ultimately, we have to stop the shaming. And I guess it's a nice segue into the main conversation about men and our mental health, right? Whenever this conversation comes up, one of the talking points is typically if you talk to your partner about something you're struggling with, they'll later use it against you.
Okay.
Right. And I guess that's where women come in. But I personally I don't think it's an excuse because there are some people who have in fact talked to people and it's come back to bite them in the behind.
Okay.
I get that.
So you've met people like that?
Not personally. No, personally,
again, you
I've
see,
heard stories.
It's always stories in the world, but you haven't met. Okay.
I've heard stories of
Okay.
people who shared things,
Okay.
and then apparently it was used against. I mean, we've seen some on TikTok where somebody would come up and share things that was told to them in confidence. I don't think the thing is worth.
But was it a person they were in an
not an intimate relationship, but like friends, like somebody who's a close friend.
Okay.
And when there's a fight, they come out and share your secrets. So that people are like, I'm not letting anybody into right?
Yeah.
But I feel like if you have friends, right, and you legitimately think, if I tell this friend or if I tell this partner something intimate, something personal, they will use it against me. You need a new friend. You need a new partner.
Definitely, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I can understand that you could trust the person and they could still betray. That's a thing. But if you legitimately think that's I will never tell these people anything, they will use it against me. Those are not your friends. Right? Okay. So it's either you are making excuses for yourself to kind of hold it in because society has told you that you have to be strong and
hold it in. Yeah.
Or for some reason that they legitimately are loud mouths and stuff like that. And if that's what they are, then you need new friends. But
so are you saying the men say that when they
if you ask a
if
man,
they open up,
if you ask a man that if you open, why are we always bottling stuff in?
Okay.
Then they'll say things like, "Well, if I tell somebody, they will use it."
So it's not only women.
No. It's not,
okay,
it's
so
not
then it's the general.
It's a more general issue.
Public.
Yeah, they think their friends will use it against them. But the society and men. Ultimately, everything is about women.
Okay.
So ultimately, they will say things like, if you tell, even sometimes they will say things like, if you tell your wife about something you're struggling with, they will rub it in your face.
Okay.
Right. One example that's kind of solidified the conversation for me is there's this show that I watch. It's called Equalizer. It's Equalizer TV series by Queen Latifah. And there's a detective and a detective Dante who is, I don't know if he's an alcoholic himself, but he's recovering. He's doing really well. And he shared that with his, now they're dating, but they were close friends at the time. He shared that with Robin McCall, who's Queen Latifah. And a few months down the line, the detective, the man, his father, comes back into his life, but then has an accident, is in the hospital. And so he's upset, but he has a lot of things to tell his father. But his father is sick. And so now he has to put his feelings aside and help his dad. And it's a lot. So Queen Latifah says, hey, I know these are very trying times for you. I think you should call your sponsor. And the detective goes, see, that's why I didn't want to tell you about my history. Look at you bringing it up in my face. Like, I don't think she's bringing it up.
No, that's not it.
But I think many people, when they say they will use it against me,
that's what they mean.
These are some of the ways that they're thinking about. Because in my mind, what else? Like, if you tell somebody, hey, I'm struggling with work, or I'm dealing with suicidal thoughts, what do they think is gonna happen? Like 2 weeks down the line, your partner will say, "Oh, for free, it's now it's a partner." Yeah, like, do you get what I'm saying?
Maybe
that was one example. I
don't think the example
works for many people.
The example you gave, I don't think then
it's not
that person's problem, right? Because I'm your friend and I know it's about you, right? And I'm telling you, I can support you in this, or maybe in this moment where you are going through, the support that I can give you, it's not enough. So you need like a specialized person who can play that role for you because of the issue that you have. I'm not saying it in front of the whole world.
It was just the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, later when this was all resolved, he apologized to Latifah for having done that. But I think many times when people say people use it against you, it's the using against. Oftentimes, it's either your friends making a joke about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because as a group of boys, like we joke a lot. Me and my friends. Me, one of my closest friends, Tony. We're always taking shots at each other, but we have a friendship going back 15 years. Okay. Right. So we know each other, so we both know we're joking. Okay. Right. And also, it's not as if when an issue comes up, we joke and we leave it at a joke. Like we go in and talk about it. Okay. Right. So I personally feel that when people say, like, they'll use it against me, it's a cop out. Yeah. I personally think it's a cop out, more so to cover lack of skill, because we really sharing with people, while it really can be as simple as telling, it requires some level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Many of us
Don't.
not.
Yeah.
We don't have. We haven't been raised. We haven't been shown.
Yeah.
But instead of the person being open to that and learning that, they would rather say, "Nickel Kane, do it against me." Right? I've heard somebody literally say, and this was on the live. I don't know if you were on it, but somebody writes in the comment section, "Hey, as for me, I'm taking my secrets to my grave."
Okay.
And I told them, if you don't take it, it's the secrets that will take you to your grave, right? Because some of these things, if you hold it in, it can in fact hurt you in many ways.
Yeah. So if you feel like you're holding it in and you can't tell, then go and tell a professional, right? A professional is then bound by legal.
They could literally lose their license and their life if they share it with anybody. I honestly don't think your secret is that special for me to risk my career over. Right? So talk to a professional, get yourself a therapist if it comes to that. And if it's something, that, for example, I don't know, like a friend can help you through, again, if you call this person your friend,
I feel like they should be able to.
Like the vulnerability, the openness there, And so this is one of the reasons why ultimately, for me, it's not something for men alone to fix as it's a broader societal issue.
Okay.
Right? Because many men who don't have the language, who don't have the openness and the vulnerability to have these conversations, have never seen it be done before.
Okay.
Right? In many of our relationships, when I was growing up, when I was at the University of Ghana, when I meet with my friends, we go to the TV room and we go and watch soccer. And we'll argue about Man U and Chelsea. We'll do that all day. After that, we'll go to Bush Canteen and go and eat. Everybody goes their way.
Okay.
We don't talk about how we're doing. We don't talk about how classes are going. And if we're struggling with grades, we don't talk about how our lives back home, people are doing. Nothing like that.
Okay.
Right? Our conversations are all so kind of surface level and quite superficial.
Okay.
So nobody taught us that.
Okay.
Right. So sometimes we don't even know the first place to start, even if we want to.
Okay.
Right. And in the field of mental health, we cannot pretend that the field of mental health is female dominated, and a lot of our research and our studies and stuff like that is tailored in a way that historically women do things.
Okay.
Right. So the average man who has no mental health grounding, right? When you tell him to go to therapy, what he's seen on TV, and even sometimes what he will go to therapy and experience in that first session, like, no, this is not for me, right? Because I've been asked all of these deep questions, and I haven't even thought about them ever before, So when we're talking about the broader society level, I think we all, as a field, need to do more by way of research and by way of therapeutic strategies that cater to men as they are, not as we want them to be.
Okay.
You understand? So, for example, if men are likely not to come to our offices, then we build up workshops and groups that are around some of the things that men typically do. You understand? Such as if I'm in Ghana, for example, and I want to host a mental health thing at the University of Ghana, for example, I'll probably play it somewhere around a Champions League final.
Okay.
We do it just before the game.
Yeah. But I think Ghana is the issue, but because it's here it's there.
Right.
Barber shops, they are getting mental health first aid, salons, even nail techs and all of that. So they are meeting the people where they are at, right? So it's Ghana that maybe the infrastructure or the structure is not there. So for me, when I say it's not a women's issue to, in a way, fix or to solve men's mental health, what I mean is for men not to expect women to carry that load for them, right? Yeah. For men not to expect their mothers, their wives, their girlfriends to be the one who has to take on the bulk of the work to do for them. That it's not them. That it's men who have to then say, I need self-care, right? Of course, me as a mental health professional, if a man comes to see me, I'm not going to, unless it's outside my scope of practice, I'm not going to say that, oh, gosh, you're a man, I'm not going to, no. But I'm going to charge you for my services, right? So that the people who are doing the research and the people who are the professionals of course they have the knowledge, so they can do it, right? But when we come to spaces such as TikTok and things like that, it's not, to me, I don't think it's a women who have platforms who are not professionals. I don't think men should be like, why don't you talk about men's issue? It's not their job.
Yeah, you know.
Right. That is demanding
No
labor. Yeah, that is demanding labor from women for, you are a man. You have a phone. Go talk about it if it's important to you.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So for me, that's what I mean, that men shouldn't feel entitled to women's time, to women's energy, to women's efforts, and be like, you are a woman, so talk about my mental health or make me feel better. Or you are my wife. Why are you not my peace? I'm not your peace. Go be your own peace. Go work on your own happiness and your own peace. It's an inside job that you need to go and do for yourself. Of course, I'm not, if I'm your wife, I'm not going to intentionally or maliciously going to do things to hurt your peace. But again, you have to go on that journey together. Don't put it on me. That, for me, that's what I mean when I say those things, that it's a personal, individualized journey that you have to go. It's not a woman's job to take on for you. Yeah.
No arguments there. No arguments there. And also, I think whenever we've talked about this, or I've talked about this with other people, I speak on how men, when we're talking to each other, we are the ones making fun of our fellow men for being open, or we're calling them, sissy, and the B word.
Like when you go on X, the people commenting, it's men laughing,
calling
trending,
food and stuff like that. So when we do that to each other, then when somebody's struggling with mental health issues, they don't want to tell us because one, they probably have seen you laugh at somebody else.
Exactly.
Right? So if we want our mental health to improve, which I hope that we do, we need to do better at how we address each other.
Yes.
When we're talking about our mental health, we need to kind of move some of our conversations from the surface level. Like, I do that too, right? But then I think the way I quote unquote forgive myself is I do the nonsense talk small, and then we go it.
Of course, friendships shouldn't be such
also serious,
right? Where you can't laugh. Of course, even women, we laugh with our friends and we do all of these things, but we are also, because of the way we are socialized, we are more communal with each other. That if you call me and say, oh, maybe my boyfriend broke up with me, I'm going to show up with ice cream. We will insult the person together, right? I'm not going to laugh at you like, I'm going like, that fool, he doesn't know what he's lost. Look at you. You're so beautiful. Don't mind him, right? That I'm, in a way, going to build you up in a certain way, where versus men, maybe a man who will only talk on the phone. Why are you crying? There are more women out there.
This girl has left you.
Exactly.
There's more fish in the sea. Oh, forget. And sometimes it takes away from how intense it is in the moment to your friend, right? Because obviously, I think sometimes we underestimate the power of kind of relationship. If I've been dating somebody, even if it's for 3 months, I think that was how long this guy had been dating the girl. Even if it's for all of 3 months, for those 3 months, she's meant a lot to me.
Exactly.
And
right?
If it's no longer possible, and it wasn't just like a mutual, amicable breakup over time, if it's like, I thought we were very, very good, and there's this betrayal and there's this heartbreak. It's a very painful thing for me. You don't have to necessarily understand how and why it's not that painful. But if you care about me and I'm in pain, you don't need to understand why I'm in pain. You just need to know that I'm in pain and be willing to do what you can for me. Be willing to do what you can to help. Right? So that's empathy. Right? But for some reason, we've been socialized that as men, we are not lovey-dovey. We are not... we say it as it is. So tell you, like, forget this girl, right?
Exactly.
But it's not working. Like, we've been doing that to ourselves,
right?
And we are unaliving ourselves at ridiculously high rates compared to women. It's like, so something is not working. And I think as men, we have to do things differently. We have to change the way we talk to each other. Yes, we were socialized a certain way, but at this age, we are old enough to know that's not working.
At some point, if you're an adult, right, you have to take control of your life. I mean, it can seem harsh, but that's also where the healing.
We say we like it. We go to the point. So please,
that's where the healing starts, right? When I'm able to acknowledge this, because because again in Ghana it's 2025 and we feel like we've come forward, but you go on X or Twitter or whatever that name is, it's young men who should have sense who are doing these callous, like, it's like, walk me through your thought process, right?
Where do you think you're going with this?
How did you arrive to make a decision that this is a trend that you think it is okay for you to partake in? Like, walk me through the process. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And so, and men are not calling each other out. Men are not holding men accountable in that space. It's only Kobiche that I've seen who is talking. Other men are not doing it.
Because we've been socialized with bro code.
Right?
Right. See, and I keep telling people almost every behavior you've seen about men, right? Mm-hmm. You can boil it down to socialization that we're stuck in. Mm-hmm. Right? You know, because, for example, like if it's your friend who is doing nonsense outside, mm-hmm. you've been socialized, like, ultimately, I mean, even at the very least, pull him aside and talk to him. I guess is the accepted way. Mm-hmm. But we've been socialized to almost like think of things as a surface level, normalize things. Yeah. We're just joking. Yeah. That's why a girl will be walking down the street, one person cat calls her, and you wouldn't do something. But you've been socialized that it's like don't be a P or don't be a B word, and just like if your friends are having fun, if you won't do some, shut up and be in your own zone. Yeah. Right? So if it's 10 people that you the one who will actually call the one who did it out, you will be the odd one out. The other 8 people will make fun of you and call you names. Yeah. Right. So with that sort of socialization, it takes the people who have actually done a lot of work to be anything close to where you expect to see. Yeah. You understand? So that's where my little empathy for men and how they do things come from. Because I recognize that it's not easy to get out of the bubble of patriarchy and that it's not right socialization. But I think if you think about it, men have been infantilized a lot, so they need to grow up. the empathy. If I have empathy, it's for the women who have been adultified their whole lives, right? That are so hard on themselves, or that have been told, since childhood, get this together, take care of a man's emotional health, da 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 da. They when it comes to empathy, they lack it. Men, I feel like they've been coddled too much. So somebody needs to tell them, like, and definitely they're not going to listen to me because I'm a woman. So it's other men that they are going to listen to. And sometimes I feel like when other men are talking to them, you all are like, oh, like. So, what you mean by that is you think I'm coddling them? Yeah, it's like, oh, well, come on, like, like you people say man to man. Talk to them like you're being foolish, right? See, the thing is, right? The few times I go to them and I'm like man to man, process, and I stop the nonsense, bounces off. You understand? I lose them. Okay. Right? And what's the point if I'm going to lose them anyway? Right? And similar to some of the things that I do in therapy, I think there's a lot of merit in for them to know you get how they got here. Right? Okay. Because I mean, you say men have been infantilized a lot. True. So there's a 20-year-old right now who has the skill sets, life skill sets, and emotional capacity of an 8-year-old. Right? Now, if you want that person to grow up, where is he supposed to start? You understand? So it's going to require a little bit of handholding. Okay. Because he has been infantilized. He doesn't even know the first thing to look for in setting up a therapy appointment. Okay. You understand? If he's 30 and he still gets his doctor's appointment set up for him, right? I know somebody who says the 22-year-old child doesn't know how to dress their bed. Okay. But has a great job, makes a lot of money. You understand? So this person has been socialized to work hard and grind and make money, but has no other life skills. Yeah. So if you tell that person, hey, yo, you need to get your stuff together. You need to go to therapy. You need to work on these things. Where do I start? Where do I find a therapist? Okay. If they come and ask you, it's like, well, you can't put the mental load back on me, right? So if you are their wife and they say, can you help me find a therapist? That's mental load that they give you, right? You're like, well, you can't put that mental load on me, but I don't know where to start. So you can tell them to grow balls, grow the hell up, and all of that. And they would want to, but where do they start? And it's not, I know it's not rocket science. We live in an age of information. I know. YouTube, social media, Instagram, TikTok, Google. Yeah. I promise you, I know. I know, right? And it's, I think the last time you were on your live, I think we talked a little bit about this, right? Because personally, like I make all my appointments myself, as I should. I'm an adult. My wife doesn't even know the dosage of medication I take. Everything that I do for my health and everything that is me, I take care of it. Like there's so many things that I do that, I mean, some men will probably call me names, right? But it is what I need to do as an adult. And I do it, but honestly, I don't know how much of it is the work that I did. I was raised by mostly women. Okay. Right? I wasn't coddled nearly as much as some of these people have been coddled. You understand? I was not treated any differently from the women in our house. Like the chores were based off of who was younger, and I mean, depending on your age, you get your age appropriate chores. And so when I was older enough, those chores were given to my sister, and then I went on to something else. So I was raised, for all intents and purposes, like a human, not like a boy or a girl. Like I was given the skill set. But there are some people who weren't raised that way, and when a person's already an adult, right? Okay. When you say grow up, it's like, okay, I want to. Okay. Where do I start? Okay. And I think not women, but as a broader society, we should be, hopefully, should be too strong a word. It would be nice if we can help some of them grow up. The people who are willing, right? And so that's where my thought process is, And I want to be doing that. That's why I keep, I keep joining some of these platforms to hopefully share some ideas here and there, to get them to think about things a little bit differently. Many of these men are, they respect money because it's all about the grind and the hustle. So for some people, I kind of share with them the fact that you can have a successful career, and I'll say, this is my career, this is where I am. And when they respect that, then we can talk about, like, you don't need to be somebody that doesn't know anything about your life to get here. Like, you can be a responsible human who respects others regardless of their gender. You can be a responsible woman who respects women. I mean, you can be a responsible human who respects women, who isn't asking for submission and holding on to these cake rules and still make it. Okay. You understand? Yeah. And so it's such, I think you see it as a pretty simple issue. No. Okay, simple is not what I'm looking for. I don't see it as a simple issue. I know it's very complex, right? And maybe how men respond to you as a man is different from how men respond to me, right? Like me as a woman, if I talk about men's mental health, they think I want to emasculate them, or somehow they are holding on to this power, and so they come back. Listen, I could be in the most nicest tone, and they will still have issues. Like, I don't know what they want. So sometimes my patience with men, especially in social media spaces, I don't have it for them. Right? I don't have any empathy for them or anything for them. And it doesn't mean like I'm going to go out and hurt them, but I'm like, you want to be where you are. Right? You want to be there. So what's the point? And you think you are better, right? You think you are better. You think you have power. So just hold on to it, right? And then you go into social media and you see how men are making somebody killing themselves a trend and playing with it. It's like, you say women hate each other, but men hate each other so much that this is how you are publicly displaying your hatred for each other.
And it's also your hatred for yourself as well. That the issue is really deep, that you all are not ready
to discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, all good points. These are all points that these are all points that I honestly cannot argue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to. It's at the very least, I want to speak to the men out there that want to do things differently.
Of course, the ones that want to change.
Exactly.
Or make yeah.
I think I remember this a long time ago when Snowflakes hosted the men's thing. On that day, actually, when it was my turn, Snow asked me a question about what men can do about the mental health, and said, you know, that all the women get your pens and papers out. See how you can help your parents. And I told Snow, like, write that down. Yeah, don't put this on them. On the day, I told Snow, let's not put this on the women. They have enough on their plate. This is men. Pull out your pens and your papers. Let's write this down, right? And I also told them how I don't have the patience for the people who want to argue with me about how realistic mental health is, and go back and forth with me about how, as mental health providers, that we are making men these days, you know, like
weak or soft,
stuff like that. I'm not for those people, right? I told Snow this, you know, that I'm not for those people. I want to talk to the people who are open and maybe do not have the skills and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, so for people like that, if you have questions, please feel free to put in the comment section. You can follow us on TikTok, and you know, when we do lives and stuff like that, join us. You know, and of course, subscribe and stay on this YouTube so we can chat some more about these things. But small, we have to all begin to do, you know, better for ourselves as men. And if the women help us out along the way, great. But we can't put it on them. Is that doable? That's fair.